Hi everyone, Dave Cook here. I'm the author of the new scrolling beat 'em up hardback book that's coming out soon. It doesn't have a title yet or a publisher reveal thanks to the virus, but those things are coming soon. But I just wanted to talk about my impressions of Streets of Rage 4. Obviously, I'm writing the book on the genre, so having played every game in the genre up to this point, it's quite interesting to play the new Streets of Rage and to see kind of what it's taken from the legacy of those games and how it applies them. So for me, Streets of Rage 2 is my favorite game of all time. Not just my favorite beat 'em up game, but game period. So this fourth installment had quite a high bar to meet, but I was just interested to see how it tapped into the series legacy and modernized everything. So I've been playing the game for 2 weeks now. I've completed it many times with every character. So there's a lot to discuss. It's in short, it's great. I love it, but there are some things that you might need some time just to gel with and practice. And so the most interesting thing is that the core mechanics are identical to the ones in Streets of Rage 2. So, for example, all of the old combat tricks you used to use in that game will still work here. So that's great. Things like, using special moves to be invincible for a second. So the game's in-game tutorial page actually tells you that you're invincible for a split second when using special moves, and actively encourages you to use that. So, for example, if an enemy throws a weapon at you, you could just pop off like Axel's spinning flame punch, and it will pass right through you. Same with throws; you're invincible when you do a throw. So, if you grab onto an enemy and someone else is about to attack you, just throw and you'll negate the damage. All these little technical things are still there, which is great. So on my first playthrough, as with Axel, I played through it just like I would with Streets of Rage 2. And while, yeah, you can complete the game doing that, you're going to have a really rough time because the emphasis now is really on combo play. You don't have to be super fancy with combos, but the potential is there. And let me tell you, like, this combo system is incredible. Takes a while to get used to, though. Much like learning the special moves in a Street Fighter game, you need to figure out what chains well together and the timing and the inputs and stuff. It's great. Like, the combo potential is huge in this game. Probably the best character for combos, like big combos, is Cherry, who is Adam Hunter's daughter. She's great. I think she's going to become a fan favorite just because, yeah, her combo potential is just so huge. Every attack she does deals so many hits of damage that your combo meter. I think I got on my first playthrough with her on stage 2, and bear in mind I was new to the game at this point. I think I got something like a 72 hit combo or something ridiculous, and I was just like, this is great. This is nuts. So yeah, the combo potential is great. So it's all about chaining specials and standard attacks and jumping attacks together to just get this really. There's a fluid rhythm to the combat that you just get in the zone, and it's laser focused, and you kind of become one with the game. You know that old cheesy saying, becoming one with the game, where you're just in it and you're fluidly doing combos and stuff. It's just great. So to give you a good example, I was playing with Blaze last night on hardest mode, and hardest mode does not mess about. It's really difficult in this one. So Blaze, you can do like her normal standing melee combo, and then her spinning special, which launches people up into the air, and then when they're in the air, you can then do the fireball on the way back down to smack them across the screen, all in one fluid motion, which is just, it's phenomenal. The other one is every character still has their jumping stun move. So in the old games you do that, and in this game you do that by holding down and attack in midair, and when you hit the enemy they'll get stunned to the spot, so you can easily throw them or combo them. But now, as you hit the enemy, you can press kick again and then stun them, then bat them away with a kick across the screen. But with Blaze, you can stun them, kick them, so they go flying over, then do a flying special into them twice, then your forward cartwheel, and it's crazy the amount of potential you can do. But the one question I had was, okay, if specials are so important to comboing, and in the old games, specials drain your health, how does that work? Well, they've got you covered there now as well, because in the old games, if you did a special, like a standing special, where you just stand on the spot, you don't press a direction, and it connected, you would lose health. But if you missed, you wouldn't lose health. In Streets of Rage 4, every time you do a special, you lose some health. And I know that sounds bad, but actually it's a bit of risk-reward genius from the developer, because say this is your health bar, right? I do a special, so I lose some health. That bit that I've lost stays green, and it means that if I hit enemies, I can slowly build that back up and regain the health I lost. So it's just like the health win back mechanic in Bloodborne. And it's genius because you could spam special attacks in this glorious, like, massive combo, knocks down your health, but the potential, if you're confident enough, is that you can build it back by hitting enemies. But if you lose that much and you get hit before you win it back, you lose it all. So really just, you need to be confident that, hey, I'm going to do this cool combo to build up score and potentially earn some extra lives. But you need to be so confident that you can win it back, because if you fluff it, you're left with so little health. Of course, you don't have to do the specials. I mean, they are great for getting out of sticky situations, avoiding attacks, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you need to really get confident with each character before you can really show off, I think. So the combo mechanics are great. The combat is fast paced. Everything feels like it should, which is great. It feels like a Streets of Rage game, which is all we could have asked for. Cherry's awesome, but then there's also the new character Floyd, who I never really play the tank characters in Streets of Rage games, like Max and Zan. I was never a big fan of them. And Floyd is a mix of Max and Zan together. But he's great. I actually really like him. His individual moves don't have as many hits, so it's harder to build combo. But again, just with more practice, you'll figure it out. His moves hit so hard. Like his forward punch move, he extends his arms and they become electrified, and it's just a crazy power move that launches people, and he's great. He's really slow, but yeah, I think with a little practice, he might become a fan favorite as well. So yeah, in terms of the enemies, I mean, a lot of them return and they do exactly what you'd expect. So the Y signals will throw you or slide kick you. Although thankfully the game now telegraphs when enemies are about to do those attacks. They flash red for a split second, so it gives you a time to react and respond, which is quite cool. You'd think it would make it easier, but actually it doesn't, because the screen gets really hectic in this game. So you kind of need that little visual cue just to, amid all the combo chaos and stuff, just to say, right, this guy's going to do this. This is how I react. So that's great. Other enemies that return, you've got Big Ben, the big fire-breathing fatsos, but now there's like different versions of them. So there's ones that do frog splashes, some that roll around like a pinball. They're cool. And you can throw them in this game. Unlike Streets of Rage 3, where they stupidly reverted back to the first game's mechanic that the fat guys were too heavy to throw, so they would crush you and take off loads of your health. There's none of that crap here, thankfully. Ruby's back from Streets of Rage 3. They're the sort of mohawk girls that can slap you and jump about. You've got the kickboxers who are all named after birds. They're back. They're cool. Donovan, Galcia, all that good stuff. The new characters, there's guys that sort of walk around with their hands in their pockets and they just attack with headbutts and kicks. They're really annoying. At first, you figure out how to deal with them, but at first they're difficult. There's now enemies with riot shields, like SWAT guys with riot shields. You need to break the shield before you can attack them. For me, initially, they feel like they really break the pace of the game. But again, it's just learning. You just need to figure out how to chip away their shield while dodging their attacks, and just you become quite fluid with it, and it just takes practice. The bosses are interesting. Some of them are really difficult. The second stage boss is the police commissioner, and he's really tough. He's got like this charging grab thing and charging punch, which it has really crazy tracking, so it can home in on you across the screen, which is again annoying at first, but you trial and error, you just start to figure out ways to deal with it. Essentially, when he charges at you, just use a special and he'll pass right through you, but the timing, you need to be pretty spot on. What else? The stage design's great. The artwork, the hand-drawn artwork is just stunning. Some of the levels are great, especially the Chinatown level, which is just feels alive and has so much depth to it. It's great. Character animation, can't really fault that at all. It's slick as hell. Everything looks fluid and animated, and Floyd is great because he's the muscle man. He's all roaring and bug-eyed, and he reminds me of Zangief from Street Fighter 4. He's all over the top and animated and powerful. He's cool. So yeah, those are the things that, I mean, it's a Streets of Rage game. It feels great. I have no problem with it at all. It's kind of, you couldn't have asked for more, really. I think that the combo system will jar with a lot of people at first, and I hope they don't get all knee jerky and start slamming the game, because it just because it'll kick their ass if they just play it like the old games. You still can do it, but it's a tougher time, unless you buy into the new mechanics. And there's nothing wrong with that. The interesting thing for me is that you can unlock the old Streets of Rage characters, from the whole trilogy, complete with their old move sets and stuff. And the fact that you can complete the game with Streets of Rage 2 Axel, for example, and use all those tricks from that game to complete Streets of Rage 4 just tells me that the core mechanics are still there and they still work. So that, that the whole bedrock of the game is fine and perfect. Absolutely perfect. I just hope people take time to learn the new stuff, otherwise, before they get pissed off with the game and start slamming it for, I don't know, being too difficult or whatever. You just have to practice. What else? So there's really cool new weapons in the game that I won't spoil for you, but there's a new throw mechanic. So throw is now assigned to its own button, and pickup is its own button. It's the circle button on PlayStation. It's great because it kind of removes that whole thing from the old games where you could be trying to punch someone while standing over a weapon and the game gets confused and doesn't know what you want to do. It's not a problem here anymore, which is great. But one of my favourite tricks in this game is throwing a baseball bat at an enemy. It bounces back off them, and if you press the grab button in midair at the right time, you can catch it again and just keep on, it's almost like juggling. You just keep on whacking it against enemies and just grabbing it and rinse repeat. It feels so good when you do that. You can even grab weapons thrown by enemies out of the air and then launch it back at them, which is really sweet. It's so much fun. What else? Yeah, I mean, I won't say anything too specific about the plot or anything, but it's it starts off simple, then goes into the usual Streets of Rage madness. I mean, Streets of Rage 3 is about Mr. X in a brain jar controlling a robot and replacing city officials with cyborgs. So keep that in mind. It's a good measure of how silly the plot gets here, but it's great. I mean, I suppose there are a few things that I don't like so much about the game, but overall, I love it. I'm going to be playing this for a very long time, experimenting with combos, playing online with friends. There's so much to unlock as well. You're always earning new things, and I don't know. I haven't seen it all yet, so it just goes to show just how much there is in there. So some of the negative things, I guess, the arcade mode is a bit of a misstep for me. You get a small stock of lives and one continue for the whole game. Now, as I mentioned, the game is harder. It's actually harder than the previous ones, I think. And I can complete Streets of Rage 2 on hardest without, in one playthrough without losing all my continues. So, but I do struggle sometimes with Streets of Rage 4, even having played it so many times. Some things still catch me off guard, and so the fact that you've only got one continue on to complete the whole game and a few stock lives, it's not enough. I think they need to rebalance that, because certainly, I'd say less skilled players, I don't mean this as a put down, but less skilled players are going to have such a rough time with that. If they want to just play that arcade experience without all the story cutscenes and stuff, they just want to play it all the way through like the old campaigns. I think there needs to be an easier option patched in, which they could do, but for me it's too tough. Um, the voices, I struggle with the voices on the new characters. I don't think the voice acting's great in this. Um, Axel, I mean, I miss his grand upper sound effect. Like the vocal effect is just great in that game. It's so over the top. But here it's just kind of nasally and kind of weak. And Blaze suffers the most. It's all high pitched and kind of these little yelps and whimpers. And it's not right. I don't think it's not. It feels kind of lazy. It doesn't have the same sort of oomph that the sound effects in the second game did. The same goes for like the sound effects when you hit enemies. I mean, it's kind of flat. I missed the really high pitched smack from Streets of Rage 2, which just made you feel so good hitting enemies. If you play as the Streets of Rage 2 get characters, the sound effect does change, but the stock one, it doesn't have the same sort of resonance for me. Some enemy types, they have special moves which they might flash a particular color to tell you what kind of, like they're going to grab you basically. So it's unblockable. So don't get grabbed or hit them before they grab you. Some enemies I still haven't figured out. Like there's a robot enemy in this one that can levitate weapons. So say there's lots of debris lying around the screen, it can use its mind to fire them at you. And it's a cool enemy. It's really well designed, animated. It's great. But I still cannot figure out how to stop that attack. Because when he's charging it up, you try and hit him, but he's got armor, so he doesn't fall over or snap out of it. And every time I get hit by it, and I have never figured out how to get out of it. So I think a little bit more, maybe an extra patched in tutorial page to explain like what the different colors mean when enemies flash, because it's clear to me when a Y signal flashes, I know it's either going to slide or grab me because I'm experienced with the old games. But if you're a newcomer, you'd be like, what is what it's unclear. So that's a problem. I think there just needs to be more telegraphing of the enemy attacks. I think that's really it. It really is great. That's the thing. I'm struggling, and I don't just want to find small nitpicks that really don't impact the game at all. There are things that maybe I've noticed just because of my experience with the genre, but to the casual player or even like seasoned players who don't care as much, it won't be a problem. So another weird thing is that the classic soundtracks have been included. It's just an option in the menu. You don't have to unlock it or anything. But it's weird, like the song choices they've chosen for each stage don't match. It's almost like someone's made a random Spotify playlist of Streets of Rage songs and just plonked it anywhere. Like stage 1 opens with Go Straight, which is the opening song from Streets of Rage 2. Perfect. But then the boss music is not the boss music from Streets of Rage 2. It's some random tune. Then later on in the game, the Master System soundtracks come in, and you've got this like crazy big battle against like a boss on one stage, and it's just this like bleepy 8-bit soundtrack, and it just doesn't work. I think if they had actually curated the soundtrack and selected songs that would work on each stage, then that would have worked. But it just feels like I don't like it. I don't think it works at all. So I think that's a problem. Apart from that, I really can't find fault with it. Oh, there is one section that's 2D. It's just flat, so you can't walk up and down. You can only walk left and right. It's just a little challenge section in one of the stages, but it's so frustrating. The enemy types they've placed in this one little bit. There are ways to get through it, and I have got through it without dying, but it's so frustrating. I'll leave you guys to figure that bit out and experience it for yourself, but it's one section out of the whole game that's like really bad, but it's literally 2 screens wide. Once you get through it, you never have to worry about it again. So I think it's great. I think the art design is superb. The music, a lot of people are down on the music. I've noticed on SoundCloud and stuff, like on the comments, but I don't know what they're talking about. They're like, this doesn't sound old school. It doesn't sound Streets of Rage. I think the problem is the soundtrack that they've released on SoundCloud. All the songs are kind of reactive to like, so a song will start off maybe slow and kind of ambient, but once you go to the next screen and find an encounter like the first tough enemy, it'll kick in and ramp up and the beats will start. So I think with the problem is they've released those ambient bits as like a full track, when actually the full stage soundtrack is loads of different songs melded together. just wait until you hear it as a cohesive thing, and I guarantee you'll like it. There are some stages that are kind of down tempo and kind of slow, but like I said, the boss will appear, then the beat will kick in, and it's just like cool. And some of the songs are nuts, like proper. They sound like they belong as part of this series, so they've done well there. I would have liked more songs from Kishiro, personally. He does the final boss theme, which is banging. It's really a really cool track. Sorry, that's not true. He does the penultimate boss track, not the final boss track, and it's a good one. But yeah, some more input from those guys in the soundtrack would have been welcome, I think, just to make sure it has that kind of feel. But I love the soundtrack we got. My hat's off to everyone who was involved in it. It's great, really good work. And yeah, that's all really to say about it. To be honest, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see the kind of custom combos that people come up with and what their thoughts are. So, um, yeah. So the game comes out tomorrow. It's on the 29th today, so 30th is when it comes out, and I'm just really excited to see how the world reacts. There will always be people that will be like, "Oh, this isn't classic Streets of Rage." I guarantee you, it is classic Streets of Rage. Underneath all the new stuff, it's a perfect representation of the old stuff. They just need to learn the new stuff, and it becomes this cohesive whole that just kind of works. Yeah, that's all I can really say about it without showing you it. But yeah, um, that's all I have to say on it, really. So obviously, it's going to get a big write up in my book. It's the last feature in the book. I figured it would be a nice iconic one to close the book on. So I haven't written it up yet. I just want to play the online a bit more and get that shared experience with friends when it actually comes out to do that. So yeah, that'll be the last thing I write for the book. So it's interesting. So yeah, hopefully you find this somewhat interesting, and if you were worried about the game, hopefully this has dispelled your fears. I mean, it's phenomenal, well worth your money, and I think it's worth buying anyway, even if you're mildly interested, because the more we support these kind of retro sequels and sort of revisits of old franchises, the more we'll see more of them. Like, I would love this company to do a Shinobi game. I would love that. I'd buy that day one. Um, so hopefully, if this game's a success, we'll see more stuff like that. So yeah. Anyway, cool. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, this has been useful. And yeah, thanks so much. Have fun when the game comes out.